Good evening, all. I hope you guys are all doing well. My name's Jason. I'm the head of fitness here at Lanserhof at the Arts Club, and today I'm going to be taking you through a little presentation, a bit of a chat about fitness resolutions and how you can kind of use this time to get back on the right track and get to where you want to get to, especially in a kind of post-COVID world where things have changed a little bit. So hopefully you can take some really good information from what we do today, and we can kind of give you some tools to move forward. There will be a Q&A section at the end of today's presentation. So absolutely, please fire some questions in as we go through it, and I'll get to them when we get to the end. Share my screen now. Okay, so yeah, fitness resolutions. Despite the global pandemic, this year is your year for change. I want you to make sure that when we kind of go through things today, you'll be able to take away these helpful information and change your plans. First question, the most important thing is, what are your resolutions for this year, for the step forward? For now, we're allowed to go outside, gyms are open, we're allowed to train, we're kind of get back into our lives. What are your goals? What do you want to achieve? We've seen in this time that actually being healthier is really, really much better for us. It's not about just always trying to look good. It's about feeling good, mentally being in a good position. So if you have a pen and paper, or you've got your phone, you've got an iPad or whatever, write down whatever your resolutions are. Because I want to see if through this conversation that you guys might change those or modify them, or see that actually we might need to look at things from a different point of view. And that's a really kind of the key thing of what we're going to do today. So if you're going to write it down, do that. If not, just keep it in your head. Understand what you think it is right now that you want to achieve. And then we'll look back at that at the end and see if perhaps you've got some different ideas. And that might be the case. Put quite simply, goals can always be split into either physiological or psychological changes. More often not from a training point of view, especially in the gym. People are always talking about wanting to look better. It might be a guy wants bigger arms, girls want to get a slimmer waist, whatever it may be. We have changes about how we want to be physically. We might be able to run further, cycle harder, train harder. It might be that we want to pick up the kids without getting any pain, which is something we see quite a lot. Like, we want to try and have a look at those physiological changes. We want those to be both functional as well as aesthetic. Psychological changes are also important. The way people look is part of it, but understanding what people mean by that. Often when people explain that they want to achieve something physically, there's also a psychological aspect as well. It's wanting to feel more confident. It's wanting to have, again, a mindset that makes them stronger in a work environment. We want to, perhaps even from a competitive drive nature. We want to kind of make sure that people feel comfortable and confident in all their goals. So again, it can always be split into physiological and psychological changes. So if you look down at your resolution you just made, it's going to be one or the other of those things. Okay, not a bad thing. It's just exactly what it is. So the first thing that we're going to start thinking about is, how can we affect physiological changes? Now, effectively gets split down into three things: modifications to the diet, bespoke exercise programs, and controlling the time spent outside of the gym. And that's obviously going to be a really key one, because let's be honest, most people make an effort to train and do some sort of exercise. If you haven't achieved what you want, chances are it's what you were doing outside of the gym that stopped you achieving those goals. And again, that might be a physical thing. It might be that you have to commute a long way and you're physically tired and you want to change your life. Or it might be a psychological point of view, because you get home and you think, oh, I don't want to train, I don't want to do those things. So again, hopefully from what we discussed today, if I want to give you some structure, we can help you make sure those things don't get in the way. And how do we align these physiological changes with the right psychology, attitude, or even mindset? Two very, very simple ways to do that. And people often overcomplicate the mindset point of view. Often it comes from not really being set on the right path. So again, we're going to set some goals. We're going to use the CLEAR acronym to work through it. Often people have kind of talked about what we call SMART goals. SMART is probably a dated psychological technique for setting goals. We're going to look at CLEAR goal setting. So again, I want you to remember this, because when it comes to it, These are the things that you're going to need to use as we go forward to set your goals. Hopefully you might change those resolutions as we look forward. We're also going to discuss a little bit about mindfulness as well, and how, especially in this era, especially post-COVID, are we going to think about, where we are mentally? Have we just been through something that's really tough on us? Yeah. Have we been stuck inside for a long time? Things like that. Yeah, those things are really important. So I'm not going to forget about them. We're going to try and set you up with a way that you can deal with those things to continue to move forward. And do remember as we go on, if you have any questions, anything I say, I'll try and explain everything the best I can. And again, if you have any questions, I think I will get to it at the end. Dietary modifications. Rule number one. You only have half of what you see and none of what you hear. This statement is here mainly because of social media, a large part, and modern media in general, including newspapers, things like that. They are always selling you something. Like, that is 1,000% what they're trying to do. 99% of the time, they're always trying to sell you something. Whether it be, from a fitness point of view, it's about do this training program, eat this way, do these teas, do these things. Often when there's a celebrity involved, when it's always about, this miraculous response, it's really unlikely that it's true. It's just a sales technique. Making changes to your diet, making changes to your physiological aspects of your body, your muscle mass, your body fat, it takes time, it takes effort, and it's worth every single bit of it. The quick changes are never, ever going to be a good positive thing. It's always going to be a quick response that therefore creates a more dramatic hormonal response that has a more long-term effect, and that's not good. So dietary modifications, really easy thing to think about is what do you eat? How often do you eat? Are you eating the right things? And most people don't really know. If I said to you now, how many of you have seen a nutritionist? How many of you listening have seen, or hearing this, I have seen a nutritionist? How many of you have actually been to an expert and gone, well, this is what I eat, this is what I want to achieve, how do I do it? Again, it's something that we believe we can eat, and I'll, inverted commas, in health, healthily, do those things in that way. Maybe it's not right. Maybe you got it wrong. Maybe we need experts, and we live in a wonderful information age. Use this age, use these people that know great things. If I ask people how many calories they have, how much fat and how much protein they have in their diet, do they know? Do they know that you need certain amounts of those things? And if you're not getting it, you're never going to achieve the modifications you want. And it doesn't mean that it always has to be you have loads of calories or loads less calories to make changes. That's just a very tiny aspect of it. But to be healthy, we need to make sure we're in the right balance of those things. So if you don't see a trainer that specializes in nutrition, if you don't see a nutritionist about these things, then you're never going to be able to make good positive changes without really having a bit of a stab in the dark. Are you going to go to other people's jobs and tell them how to do it? You're not going to do it. So rule number one, don't believe everything you see on social media. And the second part is seek expert help. Nutrition is difficult. It's a minefield. What are you allergic to? What does your body deal well with or doesn't do well with? Those things matter. So definitely think from dietary modifications. Think about seeking outside help to maintain and to improve those things. Part two of physiological responses is bespoke exercise. Now, unfortunately, I really hate the word bespoke, and I've written it twice, and it kind of grinds on me already to do that because it gets overused so much in my industry. Everything is bespoke. Anything that's individual, I guess, is in theory bespoke. But what you have to remember is that exercise choices to elicit positive physiological changes need to be for you. Different body types, different lifestyles require different exercises. So if you do a plan that you buy online that is just a default plan, it's very unlikely to work unless you're exactly the same as the person it was designed for. Now, ultimately, anyone can do an exercise plan that makes them do lots of exercise, to burn lots of calories, or do lots of repetitions of weights to build some muscle mass, but it's not going to be optimum. I think if COVID and these times have taught us anything, efficiency and seeking out the best way to do things is definitely the way forward. We've had a lot of people have had a lot of time to think about their lifestyles. So now, again, let's use experts. Let's understand what they do and what they can help us do. Building muscle mass, Really difficult, takes time, requires fuel, requires resistance. Burning body fat takes time. Again, it requires a hormonal response as well as an exercise and an effort response. So none of those things happen instantaneously. It's not a one-time, done, see you later. So again, training plans can be tailored to those specific things. If anyone, there's going to be people, viewing this and listening to this now that will probably be nodding along saying, oh, okay, yeah, it didn't happen straight away. And being patient is a key thing. If you're trying to make changes to your body and you're not thinking any more, in longer term than 12, 16 weeks, then you're not giving yourself time to work on those things. And again, this is when we go into a little bit of goal setting later. It's going to help you kind of create a better position for this as well. The word bespoke, again, like I said, overused, but the word bespoke for me is really important when we talk about the repetitions, the weight, the resistance, the specific techniques or designated pre-exercise preparations that are key to exercise. That's what makes it different. It's not about whether it's just a few different exercises, it's about what works for you. And again, if you've never seen a trainer, you haven't got to go and see a trainer every single day for the next 12 weeks. You don't have to see them 3 times a week. You can in fact see them once or twice over that period if necessary. But when you see them, tell them, this is what I want. I want to get into a position where I can train hard. I want to be able to change my body in this way or do this or do that. And they'll go, okay, great. They'll see how you move. They'll do these things, do some tests, see how you move. And then they will create a plan for you. And they'll say, you know what, do this 3 or 4 times a week for the next 2 weeks. Then after that, do this. After 2 weeks, do that. And after 6 weeks, they might say, come back. So the idea that seeing a trainer isn't for everyone is actually not true. Everyone can. You don't have to see them every time. Of course, you're probably going to get more efficiency from seeing a trainer more regularly. And again, I recommend seeing a trainer as regularly as you can, both from a time point of view and from a costing point of view. I understand that's not always that simple. But again, if you speak to anyone that's ever committed to a training program, a training plan, I'm very, very sure that they will, in fact, tell you and be very honest with you and say, you know what, actually, I got a lot out of that. I got a lot of advice. I got a lot of help, and that will help them be better. And the third point towards creating physiological response is how do we get this information? And again, I can say that I work here. I'm very lucky to be here. I'm the head of fitness here at Lanserhof for the art stuff. We have incredible stuff, incredible stuff. The pictures you see, for instance, are the labs that we have in the basement of the building. One is for testing core control with the one on the left, and one on the right is a motion capture device that analyzes people's gait. So again, 2 things that are really key. And without the information that we get here, we are making, trainers will be making more of a guess at what you need. When we talk about efficiency, and I've said that word a few times, you're going to hear me say it a few more times. We're trying to make this smoother, quicker for you. We don't want you to fail. We don't want you to mess up. We don't want you to not get what you want. So we want to be efficient. Same for every aspect of life. If you know how and where you're weak through your core, it means you don't have to do just core exercise. We can do specific exercise to work on specific muscles throughout your core. It's not that simple. There's a lot of muscles in there. Same for the gait analysis. If we see there's an imbalance, people have a knee pain or they have a hip pain or they can't move in the right way, their hamstring hurts or their lower back tension, whatever it might be, we can use these assessment tools to make sure people move in the right way. If you don't have them, like I said, a bit of a guess, and we don't want guessing. Final point towards making physiological responses and changes to our physiology are the other 23 hours in the day. And I want you to read these steps. I want you to look at it, and I want you to know how many of you do this. How many people do you know that do this? And again, that's a key question. You can, I expect some comments in that. There's a Q&A box that you can find on it. And I want you to put some answers in. I want to know how many of you do this. How many of you get 10,000 steps every single day without fail? How many of you consistently sleep more than 6 hours? Because 6 is the minimum you need to get. But consistently get that. Don't stay up late watching films and then get up early and go to work and burn yourselves out. We talked a little bit about dietary stuff. 1 gram of protein per kilogram of body weight each day is the minimum you need to think about being healthy in terms of cellular repair, post-exercise, post-stress as well. That's really important. People forget about protein helping as a general rebuilding block of cells of the body. So 1 gram of protein is the minimum. 1.5 to 2 grams of protein is more optimum if you're trying to weight train, you're trying to build muscle. That's where you've got to get to. How many of you are getting there? Chances are, in my experience, not that many people do. So again, think about that. Can you modify that? 2 liters of water every day. Again, the amount of people I train that don't do that is staggering. And look, we all have days where we're busy, things happen. But again, that's an easy change that will help us. And again, being hydrated will help our bodily functions work better, work smoother, be more efficient. Again, I'll keep using that word. It's going to make you work better. Your body function is going to be better. You're going to get more out of training. And even within that, like how often are people training and doing different things? If you're trying to make physiological responses, you need to be doing some resistance training. You need to be adding tension not only to your muscles, but your tendons as well, to keep them strong, to make you strong physically. You need to be adding something of some intensity as well, something that's going to get your heart rate and your cardiovascular system working harder, to get you to be fitter physiologically. And again, sometimes resistance training and that intensity-based training can be the same. If you're doing those things at a pace that gets your heart rate up, that's great. You don't have to always be running on a treadmill or on a rowing machine, but anything that causes a physiological response where you're getting out of breath, you feel your heart rate really getting up. And also some function-based training. This is really a statement I have to make to a lot of people, is people will do kind of one or the other. They'll either do lots and lots of resistance-based training and then nothing to do with how they function, or they'll do lots of things about how they function, but without any resistance training. So you either move well and you're weak, or you're strong, but you move badly. And neither's very good. And both of them are likely to lead to you getting either injuries or imbalances and things that are likely to then stop you training and stop you going and progressing forward onto your goals as you go forward. Obviously, this is an ideal. This is what you're aiming for. So if you don't get 10,000 steps one day, you only get 7, then the next day try and get to 13, or try and add it up, try and top it up. Same for the training. If one week you have a crazy week at work, you can't get it in, that's okay. Life happens. It does. No one's saying for 1 second it doesn't. But what you've got to do is try and make sure that if this is what you need to do over 24 hours, over a weekly period, and you don't do it, think over a 30-day period. Think over a 60-day period. Are you still getting in what you need to do in that period? So if it's 10,000 steps a day and we're doing 60 days, easy, 600,000 steps. That's your target. That's your target. And if you know halfway there you're not there, you've got to ramp it up. So you can look long term as well. People often make the mistake of looking a little bit short term, and that's it's not always a positive thing. So basically, now you know what to do. You need to change your diet. Think about having a better knowledge of what you need to do to achieve your goals. You need to think about the types of training you do, whether it's intensity or resistance based, or how many repetitions, what variation, etc. What's going to work for you to achieve your goal. Where you can get tested to find all that information. Obviously, Lanserhof for the Arts Club is one of those places, but there are many places if necessary, wherever you might be in the world. And you now know what you need to do every single day. So now that's easy, right? You've got it all simple. I'll log off, you guys will crack on. It's not that easy. I wouldn't be here. I wouldn't be a trainer. I wouldn't have a job if it was all that easy. It's not. It's difficult. And again, sometimes it's about being comfortable and confident and being able to understand the process of what we do and how we do it. So we're going to look a little bit of goal setting and how psychologically we can get you in the right frame of mind. So clear goal setting: collaborative, limited, emotional, appreciable, and refinable. Again, like I said earlier, this has kind of replaced SMART goals from a psychological and analytical point of view. This kind of makes it a little bit easier. So collaborative. Long and short, it means having other people involved. If you keep your goals to yourself, it's tough. It's a difficult world sometimes, as it is. Long days at work, commuting, other partners doing similar things. Be collaborative. Speak to your colleagues. Speak to the people you exercise with already. Speak to your family. Maybe get them involved in it. Maybe get them to hold you accountable as well. When your motivation runs low, maybe you need your sister to say, you know what, come on, get on the bike today. You've been doing so good. Don't allow it to be very, very insular. Allow it to be a very open thing. And I'm not saying social media tell the world, but let other people, let some people close to you know what you're doing so that they can help you by being accountable, can help motivate you a little bit. Because that's, again, where sometimes people generally tend to fail. Limited, simply. Set a time scale. People often make that really short. And my advice to you generally would create longer time scales. Don't make things 2, 4, 6 weeks. I see that all the time. I want to lose 10 pounds in 6 weeks. Don't make it so short. These training and these changes are going to be life-changing things. So don't, there's a lot of life left. Everyone's got a lot of life left. So again, don't think, in 10 years' time, 12 weeks is going to be would have been no time at all. So don't be afraid to think long term. And again, if you need advice from a trainer, nutrition, etc., doctors, whatever, to understand how long it's going to take, do that. Don't guess. Try and get these goals to be set in a really specific way that helps you with those. Emotional. Very simply, if your goal doesn't stimulate you mentally, it's not going to happen. If you set a goal and you think, oh yeah, I want to run a marathon next year, and you think, well, I don't really care, but maybe I'd like to do it, you're not going to do it. You need to set a goal that really helps you stay focused and create this desire to do it, desire to make change. And again, sometimes, that often helps with aesthetic goals, obviously weddings, holidays, the summer, which is obviously something we're hearing right now a lot of in the gym. Those are things that really drive people to want to achieve their goal. And that's not a bad thing. Again, it's on its own. If it's just the letter E of these clear, then it wouldn't be so good because it'd be a little bit singular focus. But we can use the emotional aspect to help drive at certain parts, different psychologies that can help us to be better within our training, with our diet, whatever it might be. And it doesn't always have to be about physiological responses. It can be emotional. It could be, I've got a bad hip, I've got a bad knee. I really want to get back to running again, or I really want to be able to take the grandkids out, or whatever it might be. Those things still matter. There's still an emotional response for you. So set something that's going to make you feel great when you achieve it, and we can strive towards that greatness. Appreciative. Basically, that means breaking it down into small bits. So again, set long-term goals. Set 12, 16, 20, 24 weeks, whatever it might be, long-term goals. But that doesn't mean you just set one goal at the end of it, and then, you're going literally from A to Z. You're breaking it down into bits. So if you're talking about building muscle mass and you want to build to a certain point where it might be 3-4 kilograms of weight that you want to add on, or if you want to lose body fat, again, 2, 3, 4 kilos, whatever it might be, you need to break that down into 500-gram segments. And you need to break that down into 2-week segments or 3-week segments. It allows you to stay on target, makes you understand that what you're doing is working. Again, especially if you're not able to get as much expert opinion, doing this is imperative. Without getting that full understanding of whether you're achieving your goals, whether you're on target, you might just get to 12 weeks and go, well, that didn't work. Expecting perhaps a miracle last few weeks that'll get you there. It is going to be a gradual process over a period of time. So again, create small targets. And especially when we talk about aesthetic goals, and this is really common as well, is that people expect, after they train a few times, to look in the mirror and see their abs and see their biceps. It takes time, and we don't notice those little changes. That's why we use products like Staiku. We have an MRI scan that does body composition as well, and we have both body composition analysis. Because it helps us to check those things bit by bit by bit. And if you're not able to do that, use a tape measure, take photos, anything that's going to be able to give you something that can help check that that's happening. And the letter R is refinable. Life happens, prepare for it, very simply. It's as easy as that. If I had £1 for every person that had got off their training plan, I wouldn't have to be a trainer anymore. Simple as that. It's really easy for me to sit here and say 12 weeks, crack on, don't worry about life. Especially, we've just gone through, this pandemic. If that's taught us anything, is that, things will be up in the air and things will change and those things. So we've got to be able to adapt to it. That can be moving the goal back. So if you've had a crazy week at work and you've missed training, then just move the goal back a week. Don't say, I've got to push even harder and harder and harder and work, unrealistically. Push it back. That's going to happen. These things are going to be in there. So be prepared for it. It can be the same. The pandemic, how many people were ready to train during the pandemic? No one was. That's why the price of dumbbells on Amazon went up to £45 a pair, because you couldn't get them for love nor money. People weren't prepared for when they weren't able to access the gym or access the outside world. So again, it happens. We've got to deal with it, and that's okay. That's not a bad thing. An example, just so you can see a kind of breakdown of some of these goals. So I want to compete in the London Revolution cycle ride that's going to be held in September of 2021. And I've broken it down basically into 4 goals. Building up 50 miles on the bike by the 29th of May. That's basically a limited, appreciable, and a refinable goal. Again, it's work, which is likely at this point because gym is crazy busy. We are literally as busy as we've ever been. So will that push back a little bit? Quite possibly. And it's going to be busy. But again, that's okay. That happens. I need to be aware of it. Number 2 is to work with a trainer to, I'll work with one of my trainers here to create a training plan that complements my cycling. I'm not a big cyclist or something I've done much of. So again, seeing someone who's a bit more of an expert in that, understanding what I need to do to improve my leg strength in the right areas and to improve my endurance. Again, use expert knowledge to make sure your training is going to get, going to be streamlined and more efficient. That's both a collaborative and an emotional one. Again, I want to be better. I want to be the best I can be. And that's my emotional attachment. I want to be able to go fast. I want to be able to drive and not get tired, things like that. Number 3 would be an 8-hour training ride with a teammate by the 30th of July. This is both limited, emotional, and refinable. Again, it can be moved. But again, I want to be there. I want to be able to go with my teammate who cycles a lot, and I want to be able to cycle with him. I don't want him to, get to halfway and sort of be slowing down for me or resting or, parking up the side of the road and waiting for me. I want to be able to train that way. So again, it's a good goal set. Number 4, as a team, the idea is that we complete the 150-mile cycle ride in 15 hours. It's, again, a limited and emotional goal. Again, we've set ourselves a target, we've set ourselves a position, and again, the time scale is there that we've got to work within. So you can see how I would break down one of my goals, and I will have 3 or 4 goals that we've broken down in this way that I'll look for over the next period of sort of 12 months, 18 months for me moving forward physically. We talked right at the start about what your resolutions were and the fitness resolutions are. And I wonder how many of you listening now would have broken down your resolution like that, because that's what we need to do. If you just say, I want to be able to run a marathon, that's cool. But how are you going to break it down? That's what we've got to do now, is use this information to do that and to work within that aspect. Mindfulness. Again, really, really key aspect of life now. And again, I'm no expert in mindfulness. I'm not going to sit here and tell you exactly how you need to do it. But it's important now more than ever that people are looking after their mental health. We know that. This isn't a surprise to anyone listening to this. But again, it's a really common aspect within training, and something that we, in the gym, we see a lot, is that stress limits our performance. It creates a big hormonal response, cortisol levels, noradrenaline, things like that. But when they rise, again, they limit the way that we have physiological responses through our muscles. So we don't build muscle as well. We don't burn body fat in the same way. We create actually things like more kidney and liver stress, and actually do other things that limit positive responses. So protein use and the window in which we use protein and things like that can all be affected by our hormones. So if we get all that wrong, actually our quality of our hair, quality of our nails, our skin quality all can start to deteriorate just from training hard, just because we got it a little bit wrong. In terms of what you can do through mindfulness, again, I'm not going to sit here and tell you what to do, but again, obviously, look, there are meditation responses. There's apps you can get. You can go and see an expert. You can go and do yoga. You can go and do flotation exercises. You can there's sleep pods. There's all sorts of measures and movements and things that you can do that can help you feel more at ease. And it might be sitting at home and doing your exercise might be your mindfulness, and that's absolutely great. But find what you need to get into that place where you're happy, where you're de-stressed, where you feel good. And that's easy for me to say, because again, I work somewhere where I can get those things tested as well. How do you know where your hormone levels are? How do you know where you are in terms of your vitamins and minerals? And are you burnt out? Are you eating enough? Are you doing those things? The message that I'm going to preach through this is being efficient, but also seeking experts. Go and see a nurse. And again, obviously, look, here at Lanserhof, we have that. We have nurses and doctors here that can analyze those things so that you can be the best you can be. If you're not able to take that information away and do anything with it, if you're not able to get it, again, you're stabbing a bit in the dark. And if you don't get responses, and if anyone's listening to this, anyone who hears here has been training, has been dieting, was doing all these things, and hasn't got the results you want, chances are it's because of one of these factors we talked about today, where you've just not got that right. And that's not a bad thing. You're not an expert in it. It's not your job to be good at that. Your job is to listen to experts and use them and use their knowledge. And again, cost is always going to be those factors that people are going to bring up. But again, it's a short-term cost for your long-term health. And I've not met anyone in my life who has trained hard, eaten well, changed their body physiologically or psychologically, who's ever regretted it and gone, oh, that was a waste of money. Because you'll feel great, you'll be better, you'll work harder. Again, people often talk about when they make those changes, they actually change their life because they're able to be better at work. They're more switched on. They're not cloudy. Their judgment's good. Their decision-making's good. And that makes them better. And they might progress more through work. They might get promotions. They might get to where they want to be in life. And look, that's a really positive aspect of mindfulness. So don't forget about it. So we talked right at the start of this about your resolutions that we heard, you know, that asked you, what are your resolutions? What do you want to achieve? What are your goals? What do you want to do? Does that conversation change it? Does that make you go, okay, I need to look at this in more depth? Has that made you think, well, actually, I've not thought about it like that at all? If your resolution, if your goal was just one line, run a marathon, if your resolution was get stronger, whatever it might be, you're going to have to now look at it. You're going to have to think about what we've talked about. You're going to have to create goals. You're going to have to create a process where you get to where you want to be. And that's kind of the crux of everything we're talking about here, is really ultimately getting you to a position where you can make a decision that makes you better. Makes the way your body functions, make the way we use psychological and mindfulness techniques to help us be more relaxed. If you're not doing it, start doing it. And again, like I said before, again, there's apps to follow. There's people to follow on social media who are great experts at what they talk about. And again, generally, if they're trying to sell you something, they're probably not experts usually. The experts usually go quietly in the background and just tell you, this is good, do this. And again, we like to think the same way here. We will tell you, do these things. This is what you need to do. You want to come and get it to the best level you can? We'll do that here at Lanserhof the Arts Club. We're also going to tell you that this is what you need to do to be fit and healthy. I hope as you're listening to this and as you're going through there, you're looking at that goal now and trying to figure out if actually, is that what I want? Is that what I really need? Again, think back to the dietary changes. How many of you eat well? How many of you get enough protein? How many calories do you know? And if you don't, that's what you've got to do. How many of those daily things every day? How many of you are doing those things? How many of you are getting 10,000 steps? It sounds arbitrary to say you're getting 10,000 steps, but it's a base level of how active you should be every day. And if you're not, if you're strapped to that computer, it's not good. It's not good for your mind. It's not good for your body. So you've got to be active. You've got to find some way. And again, that's where the goal setting comes into that. And it makes sure that you can stay on those things. I hope as you're listening, and I imagine as you're listening, you will also have some questions about some of these aspects. And again, if it's more depth or it's things that might be more specific to you, then please use that question and answer box and pop it in there. And I'm really looking forward to taking some of your questions and hopefully helping you to make better decisions moving forward. So yeah, I am ready for you if you have questions. Okay, so a question from Lisa is, what do you advise clients to do after they've achieved their goals? Basically set new goals. Again, whether you have a 12-week goal, a 20-week goal, a 2-year goal, whatever it might be, it's actually really important that that's a constant and evolving process. So, and you know, it's not as simple as normally for people. If we're talking weight loss or training in a certain way, doing a certain thing, usually when you've done it once, you've got to that point, you don't often get there and go, oh, I'm done now. I'm just going to sit back and, you know, kind of go back to where I was before or go back to what I was doing before. Usually people get to that point and go, okay, I've changed my body in a certain way. I like that. I want to keep making changes. Or I run a marathon this quickly. I want to push on and do more. That's how our bodies work. That's how our minds tend to work. We tend to be real driven individuals as a species. That's how we move on and continue to be better. So ultimately, that's it. get to the end of your goal, make a new one. And again, if you didn't achieve your goal, then look back at those processes, that clear goal setting, go, actually, I need to make it, look at the limiting factor, go, actually, maybe I need to make it longer or make it over different parts. So yeah, don't just think that one goal is all you're going to need. Generally, when you get to your goal, you'll have another one. Okay, good. Another one. Good. Another question. People are shy. People need to get in there. All right. So another Lisa, actually. Apparently, there's only Lisas that are listening to this. Lisa C this time. She asked, what would an example of functional training that I spoke about earlier be? And that's pretty simple, actually. Things that really people have heard of a lot. So things like Pilates and yoga, they generally revolve around movements that are functional to our life, how to step, how to lunge, how to squat, how to sit, how to stand, how to bend, how to reach. Those are the things that we want to be able to do. And that's ultimately what often a lot of function-based training should be. It's a really big buzzword that goes around a lot, and people talk about functional training a lot. But ultimately, it's the things you do every day. It's exercises to make those things better. So if you struggle to go up and down the stairs, do an exercise where you step up and down until you get really strong in the legs. So going up and down the stairs is easy. That's a functional training exercise. If you work as a flight attendant to put baggages above the seats, they're heavy. They can be 10, 15 kilos. If you're not very strong in your arms, you need to practice lifting things above your head, reaching up and doing those things. So again, don't ever think that functional has to be a specific exercise or a specific thing like Pilates, even though Pilates is an example of a functional exercise type. They are things that will work to improve your function to your goals. So never make it too, never try and pigeonhole it too much. Try and make it about what your function is and what fits that. And again, if you think Pilates might be right for you, speak to a Pilates instructor, and they might say, actually, yes, it is. Or they might say, well, actually, you need to do X and Y. So again, same point, seek expert help. That's what we're here for. Email from Sam. How do you best avoid plateauing in your training? I think that really, for me, that comes back to the goal setting, ultimately. If you're able to set lots of small, appreciative goals, that's where the plateauing kind of is avoided. So if we're talking, again, either weight loss or weight gain, or if it's training and trying to get stronger, if you noticed after a period of time that actually I can't reach my goal 2, 3 weeks in advance, you're not improving, then chances are something within your training isn't correct. And that's where you might need to, again, seek expert advice and try and look at, what might be incorrect about your training. And that's not always easy. Sometimes those things need to be looked at. And often plateauing is a result of not usually effort. Effort is normally always there. People come and train, do things and work hard. And that's never really a bad thing. It's more often than not, it's the other things. So we talk about hormonal responses, dietary functions, or the time outside of the gym. So if you can do all those things, you're going to get results. A anonymous attendee, don't be shy, you can always use your name. How important is calorie counting when you're trying to lose weight? And that's a really open question because it's not that simple. Is the best way to describe it. And I know some people sit on the fence and it's all about calories, and some people sit on the fence and it's not about calories. And that both answers can be right, both can be wrong. It really depends on what you're trying to achieve. Very often when we're talking about building muscle and burning body fat, your calorie count is important. It's not the only thing that matters, but it is important. If you're trying to lose weight, trying to burn body fat, and you're having more calories than you normally do on a normal daily, weekly basis, you're going to find it very difficult to lose weight because you're going to store excess energy as body fat. And that's quite a basic way of looking at it. It's much more technical than that. But that's the long and short of that. And the same when you're building muscle. If you don't have enough fuel, quite simply, your body isn't able to build your muscles. So it is important, but it's not the only thing. Having the right, like I mentioned earlier, having the right amount of protein is equally as important for bodily function and for repair and rebuild of muscles. But if you don't know where you are calorie-wise, it's always something that people can work out. Use an app use a calorie counting app, or a diet meal app where you can put your food into it and see what you have on a daily, on a weekly, on a bi-weekly basis. When you put that information, most people are quite amazed. They go, "Oh, actually, I didn't realize how much I have every day." And sometimes it's actually, one, it can help you see it and change those things, but also helps you understand where you are. Most people look at that information and go, "Actually, I know I'm having too many calories, or I know I'm not having enough." So it's not everything, it's not the only thing, but it can be important. A question from Lefteris. What is your approach on someone who has a goal, but for a number of factors, he's not able to follow the prescribed plan you initially create for him? Do you have an agile method to work with that? Yeah, but I mean, everyone comes in with a plan and a goal when I train them, when we train here at Lanserhof the Arts Club. We have structure to everything we do, and that's really, really key. But as I said, life is not that simple, and it's about being adaptable. 90% of goals that people set are completely achievable. And part of my job is also to make sure they're realistic as well. I don't want people to, people say they want to beat Usain Bolt in a race. It's not going to happen. But, we can be in a position where we can advise them that if you want to sprint faster, let's see how fast you do it. And then let's set a program and a series of exercise and movements and training to work to make you sprint faster. I think for me, my job as a trainer is to try and be there for when those factors come up, and to try and help them. And that, I used the term collaborative earlier in the goal setting. I have people that are there because, again, stuff happens, life happens. Don't dismiss it. Don't get disappointed. It happens. The job is to be able to be flexible within that, the timings, and what you're trying to achieve. And if you try and, again, sprint's a good example. You're trying to sprint faster, but you get knee pain when you run a lot. Again, if you've got knee, and they say you might have to have surgery or whatever it might. That's not viable. So maybe we need to look at your goal and go, actually, well, look, maybe we need to get away from sprinting. Maybe think about, let's just run a series of time, or swim, or row, or do something that doesn't cause pain, but gives you the same sort of rush. So yeah, my job is to be flexible with the result, flexible with the plan, to help people achieve what they want. Okay, well, any more questions? I hope maybe I've inspired you with some of the answers. Maybe there's more questions, I don't know. If not, then I guess from my point, thank you very much for being here. Thank you for listening to this webinar. I hope, as I said, I hope you take something away from this that can help you for your training and your life going forward. If for any reason after this you have more questions or anything that comes up, you can get in contact through Instagram or contact us through here at Lanserhof for the Arts Club. We certainly hope to see you on site, and I will certainly be doing more webinars, more podcasts and things coming up. So if you're interested in learning more about training and training techniques, please do listen in.